In this lesson, we're going to take care of a few last-minute details, do some mirror operations, and get ready for applying materials. Right now, our base plate and our airbag are solids, and everything else is surfaces. For the purposes of our video series, it doesn't really matter if we're dealing with surfaces or solids. Applying materials to either of these is going to be the same process. But one thing we want to do is make sure that we either cap these off or create a solid for all of our remaining geometry. Now, one thing I want to note is when we look at our sketch picture, we notice that the upper section is carbon fiber, the hand grip area is a perforated leather, and the lower section is a different type of leather. Now, this is going to be important. We don't want to create one big solid. It might make more work for us when we're applying these materials. So what we can do is create individual solids. For instance, we can hide this area. We can cap off both of these ends of our tachometer, and we can make a solid out of that. So in this case, I'm going to use a filled surface. I'm going to select that open edge and just hit OK. Next, I'm going to do the same thing again for the other edge and hit OK. Now, if we use the knit surface option, we select our tachometer section and these two filled sections, we have a try to form a solid option. If we check this, hit OK, we've now created a solid body out of our upper steering wheel section. We can do the same thing for the lower section. We can cap off each of these ends using a filled surface option and simply knit them together and check the try to form a solid option. So right now, everything on the screen are solid bodies. So if we use our surface bodies dropdown, you'll notice that we only have one surface body for this hand grip. You also notice in our surface bodies dropdown that we have a lot of extra surfaces that we don't need. And also, if we use our solid bodies dropdown, we have one solid that we don't need. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hide our solid bodies. I'm going to create a solid body out of this. Again, we're going to use filled surface, select the upper edge and hit OK. Use filled surface and select the lower edge and hit OK. Then we're going to knit these together. We can try to form a solid and hit OK. One last thing I want to add to this before we mirror it is we're going to add a small fillet to this inner edge. Notice 10 millimeters is too big, but if we use 0.5, it should work out fine. All right, now that we've created this geometry, we can go to our Features tab, use the Mirror option. I'm going to mirror across our right plane, select the body to mirror, and mirror this across. You want to make sure that you do not select Merge Solids because that will merge it with the center of our steering wheel section. And for right now, we want to keep everything separate. So let's go ahead and turn back on our surface knit and our surface knit 27. Everything here on the screen is going to be a solid body. So now we can do a little bit more cleanup. We're going to select the first helper surface. We're going to shift select the last one, right click on it and select delete bodies. Before we get rid of all of these, I'm going to use a drop down, open up our solid bodies window and select turn signal button face. Once we hit OK, notice the surface bodies folder no longer has a plus sign next to it. And the solid bodies folder doesn't have any hidden solid bodies. So everything we now have in our model is only pertinent to the design at hand. I also want to make note that there's a lot of cleanup we can do on the feature tree. For instance, we did a lot of surface fills and a lot of knits at the end. Because we don't really need to know what each of these surfaces are, I'm going to simply add them all to a folder. I'm going to say add to new folder and just call this model cleanup. Everything before it, up until the previous folder, has to do with our hand grip area. I'm going to select all that, add to new folder, and call this steering wheel hand grip. Now that makes a nice clean feature tree for us to look at, and anybody that comes along to the model can go to each section and figure out what has been done and when it's been done. Last thing I want to do is save the model, and now we can get ready to apply some materials, but I think that's best saved for a next chapter.